Hey all, welcome to the Smash Speaker Series. My name's Marcos Reyes. I'm a Smash alumni who attended the Smash Academy at Morehouse College. Big shout out to my Morehouse family. I'm currently a sophomore majoring in industrial engineering at Northwestern University. As always, many thanks and welcome to Smash friends and supporters who are joining us today, and welcome to all of you who are being introduced to Smash for the first time. Smash is an out-of-school enrichment program for high school students of color who have been historically underrepresented in the science, technology, engineering, and math fields, or STEM. The SMASH program starts for students in the ninth grade and continues through their senior year of high school. Over those 3 years, SMASH invests thousands of hours in each scholar through a 5-week summer program held on a college campus and year-round support. The program is unique in how it combines extremely rigorous STEM coursework, mentorship, and a social justice curriculum. After completing Smash Academy, scholars are given opportunities for real-world experiences in college internships with leading industry companies made possible through our alumni program, Smash Rising. Students are placed in companies like DoorDash and IDEO. Currently, Smash has 10 sites serving students in communities around the country. Smash was founded by Dr. Frida Kapor-Klein, who recognized the gap in STEM education for historically excluded students of color. Over the last 18 years, Smash has changed the lives of thousands of young people and created a pipeline of diverse STEM talent, preparing us to enter STEM careers. Smash scholars graduate with bachelor's degrees and work in STEM fields at nearly 3 times the national rate. Through Smash's well-rounded programming from high school through college, students like me not only build the academic skills and gain work experience, but we build the confidence, networks, and life skills necessary for successful STEM careers and to create innovations that impact our communities of color.
There aren't a lot of kids that look like me in my regular classes or throughout the school year. Like, I'm often one of the only African American girls in my classes. But at Smash, that changes.
I wanted to apply to Smash because I want to be an environmental engineer and learn how to own my own environmental engineering firm.
Me coming in this program feels like an enhancement because I'm just catching up. I'm finally catching up.
We're studying environmental injustice and contamination among low-income and primarily people of color communities.
Computer science, physics, like your sciences, your mathematics, and even design thinking.
Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. I was like, this fits into my category of what I want to be, and I was like, okay, I got this.
Having somebody that looks like us teach us and mentor us is like an amazing opportunity.
I am first generation American, so I don't have those roots that my peers might, and don't have those connections that my peers might have, and Smash are those roots. Like, Smash creates those roots for me, or kind of like plants the seed for me so that I can have those roots later on.
I've never even heard of computer science before I came into this program, and I care about science, I care about math, I care about getting into college, I care about my future.
One of my favorite parts of Smash is the opportunity to hear inspirational speakers whose life stories are similar to mine and those of other scholars, and who, despite any challenges they faced along the way, rose to the top and never lost their commitment to reaching back and bringing others along. Therefore, I am so beyond excited to present our speaker today, Miss Cynthia Marshall, to our Smash scholars who are joining us here, and to you, our guests. Miss Marshall's life and career journey has taken her to the pinnacle of corporate America, in her pivotal role in advancing diversity at AT&T to becoming the first African American woman to lead an NBA team as the CEO of the Dallas Mavericks. Today, Miss Marshall will be in conversation with award-winning journalist and founder of the notable Race Card Project, Miss Michele Norris-Johnson. Again, thank you so much for
Listen, baby, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough, baby.
If you need me, call me, no matter where you are, no matter how far.
Don't worry, baby.
Just call my name, I'll be there in a hurry.
Hello, hello. I am so pleased to be able to welcome Cynthia Sint Marshall to our virtual stage. And as you saw from that video, she creates her own weather wherever she goes. Sint Marshall, thanks so much for being with us.
Having me here. How are you doing?
I am great. I am better now that I'm here with you.
Awesome, awesome. It's just so good to hang out with you.
It's great to be here. And shout out to the 700 people who are watching along with us. We want to hear your questions. Remember to pop those into the Q&A queue as we're talking. But let's begin with a few questions from me. Now, who were your earliest inspirations? Did you always know that you were destined for leadership, or were you conversely perhaps a shy child who found your voice later on in life?
Oh, I love that question. I know it's hard to believe, and sometimes I say, and people don't believe it, but I actually was a very quiet kid. I would just sit with my math books, and to the point where my father actually told my mother he thought something was wrong with me. And then in the seventh grade, I got a best friend and started talking, and I never stopped. My mother truly is an inspiration to me. Michelle, you know the story. I mean, my mother just, she raised her six kids in a domestic violence situation. We had a lot of bad stuff going on, but we also had a lot of good stuff going on.
Mhm.
And so I watched my mother just persevere and make us a priority, and she made education a priority. I often say she put two books in my hand, a math book in one hand and a Bible in the other,
Okay.
and told us, just keep our heads in these books and we'd be okay. And then I think I was very much inspired by my ninth grade algebra teacher, Miss Irvin, who made me want to be a math teacher. So I still love math. So yes, I was able to see. I had some great role models, and I saw some bad things, but I saw some very good things growing up.
So shout out to Miss Irvin. I love when people not only mention that they had a teacher as a mentor, but mention them by name. I hope in some way you've been able to get in touch with her and let her know how you've touched her life, how
Yes,
she's touched her life.
yes, she passed away a few years ago, and I was able to go to her service and
Mm,
actually speak and talk to her family. And then I had a teacher, Mr. Rotelli and Mr. Parrots, and I was able to honor Mr. Parrots, my ninth grade English teacher, a few years ago. And the reason it's the three of them and my principal, Mr. Chapman, is because we had an ugly incident one summer in 1975 when my father unfortunately broke my nose. And I went back to school. My mother says, "You go back to school." I was in the 11th grade. I was head cheerleader, and I went back to school like nothing had happened with a big silver brace on my nose because I was told to just go and do what I needed to do. And those three teachers and a principal embraced me, embraced my mother,
mm.
found out about her big dreams for me to go to college along with my siblings. And they just got me involved in all kind of activities and decided that my zip code 94804 didn't matter. What mattered was my future, and they saw a bright future for me despite all the stuff that was going on. I love educators. I think they are just some of the most wonderful people on this planet.
Yes, angels come back and sit at the front of the classroom in many cases.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I appreciate your honesty because over the years you've talked very openly about growing up in a turbulent household with domestic violence. You grew up in Richmond, California. You, like me, have roots in Birmingham, Alabama. Shout out to Birmingham. That's where my father's ancestral home is also. But when you've experienced violence in the home like that and tumult in the home and financial instability that lives inside you in a certain way, um, how does that approach how does that affect your approach to developing culture in a corporate setting and also thinking about your customer base and thinking about the people who are in the arena, the people who support the Dallas Mavericks in their living rooms, the people who can't afford a ticket but love to wear that jersey?
Yes, I love that. I think what it does for me, first and foremost, is to realize that everybody that I come in contact with, whether it's the people I'm leading, whether it's the players, the fans, the sponsors, whoever it is, these people have a story. We all have a story. And sometimes you can't even imagine some of their stories or what people are going through because they show up to you as somebody that's well put together and you don't see everything that's going on. So, at least, especially with our employees, what I try to practice is to meet them where they live. and knowing that the person who walks through my doors, that's the person who got up out of bed in the morning, and whatever issues they have, whatever was going on in that house, all of that is what comes into my workplace. And so we need to be able to meet them where they live, whether they tell us what's going on or not. We need to be able to discern and have counseling available for them, just whatever, and just make sure it's a great place to work, a place where they can hide, feel free, and be safe, which is what school was for me growing up that way. And then it puts me in touch with just different uh, demographics. That there are people who will show up in our lives, show up in our customer base, show up in our workplaces from all walks of life. And they bring all of this stuff with them, and it makes us better. I mean, it truly makes us better to have all these diverse outcomes and these diverse voices at the table, because it causes us to look at our markets differently, to understand our markets are just bigger than just what we see in the mirror, which is why diversity, equity, and inclusion is so big at the Dallas Mavericks. So it opens up the world. And then I think just going through adversity itself made me stronger, and it made me resilient. I saw my mom get through things. She was always very optimistic, always very hopeful. And so I know that has impacted me a lot, just in terms of how I view life and how I approach work and other people. The glass is just always half full.
And you find your stride when you run uphill.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
often what happens.
And sometimes, I ran track, so we'd have those ankle weights on. And I thought about it when you just said about running the stride, because, I had a coach, Johnny Holmes. He would make us run every summer in these ankle weights. And he would make us so mad. It would be hot outside, and we were running these hills up in Point Richmond, California. And he would say, no, at the end of the summer, you'll be able to take them off and you'll run faster and it will feel better. But you just got to endure the weights through the summer. And so that's when I was a teenager. And now that I'm all grown up, I know exactly what it means now to carry those weights. But one day the weights will come off, and that's when you can really soar.
When you mentioned that, I ran track for a minute too, and I remember those weights, still remember what they look like, remember how they chafe your ankle. But it's true, when you take them off, you're like, whoo, I feel like Pegasus. I'm just, taking off.
Yeah, you can go. You can go. Yes.
Now, you were the first African-American cheerleader at UC Berkeley, correct?
That's what they tell me. I still think that somewhere in the archives, maybe somebody else was a Yale leader or something. But in terms of the cheerleader dancers, yes, that's what I have been told.
Okay, so much of the work they do at Caper Capital and the Caper Center for Social Impact and Leveling the Playing Field is about people who are often the lonely only or one of a small number. Did your interest in sports leadership begin there, and what did you learn being a lonely only on the cheerleading squad that serves you well in leadership now?
Yes, I think what I learned is that, first of all, it's okay to show up to places and you're the only one. What I tell people, I didn't realize actually, like, I was the first African American CEO of an NBA team until someone, a broadcaster, asked me that. And I said, wow, so it just makes me decide I don't want to be the last. And it makes me decide I don't want to be the only one. So I have to work very hard to bring other people along. And so I think that's the mindset I always have when I'm the only one. I think I'm supposed to be there. I was always taught to just go for it. I mean, the first time I went out to be a cheerleader, I didn't make it. I didn't make it, and I think it was because I was talking about this to some young people last night. And honestly, because I'm big on preparation, and I didn't blame anybody else. I owned it. I knew I was going out. There hadn't been any other African Americans that we were aware of, and I didn't make it. And everybody was at the tryouts. They were watching, my family, all these people on campus. And I think because I just didn't prepare the way I should have, because I've been a cheerleader in high school and all that. And then I just actually think maybe I was
college cheerleading is something different. That is a whole
it is
game.
It's a whole thing, a different thing. And also I think I was a bit nervous about being the only one. And then the next year I went out, and the interesting thing is the year that I made it is the year that I kind of botched up my routine because I forgot a few things, but I just got right back in there. And that year, though, I just felt like I belonged in that squad. I felt like I was supposed to be there. I wasn't hung up on nobody else looking like me. I was proud of my big afro, and I just thought they need this afro and everything that comes with it on this squad. And that's the year I made it. That's the year I made it.
So sometimes you have to show up at a room as if there was a chair for you. And if not, look around like, is someone going to get me a chair?
Right.
Like you have to walk in like you own the space.
Exactly. And I'm talking about a big leather wingback chair. Not the folding chair, because the folding chair is great. There was a time where I think it was Shirley Chisholm who said, if they don't give you a chair, bring a folding one.
Mhm.
And that was absolutely appropriate then. And now I said, just roll in the big wingback leather chair and just move over so I can have a seat, because I need to be at this table too.
Now, you mentioned your big afro.
Yes.
You talked about a time in your life where you were sporting braids and you liked bright colors and you liked red high-heeled shoes. But as you moved up the corporate ladder, you realized I need to tone it down. And I think you took your braids out and you started to wear beige or colors that were more muted. And you say that now, if you could speak to your younger self, you would say, don't do that. It's okay to bring your authentic self into spaces. What's that conversation like that you have with your younger self when you're telling her, to hold on to who you are?
Exactly. Well, first of all, when I first started working, so I'm fresh out of college. I'm 21 years old, and I was so excited about working. And so I got rid of my big afro, thinking, okay, I'm going to have to get rid of the big fro, and it's a lot of work every day. And so that's when I got braids. I got them intentionally. I said, I just want to be cute, a little shortcut. I don't have to, I don't have to do my hair every day. I was just starting to work, so I had it all mapped out. And within my first few weeks of work, I was told to take down my braids
By who?
and get rid of my red shoes.
By
And I
who?
went
Who
home.
told you that?
My boss's boss.
Mhm.
My boss's boss. I will not name her, but my boss's boss. And what's interesting is that she meant well, because that was just not a look that they were familiar with. And I was in this fast track management program, the only Black female in the fast track management program, trying to get to director within 5 years. So just the whole shebang. And so she says, oh, no, 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 you can't wear the braids and get rid of the red shoes. And so she kind of told me what I need to look like. And I went home, and you know how long it takes, to take braids out.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
stayed up all night with my mom and my oldest sister, taking out my braids. They went and got me some black shoes. So we changed my whole look. And so from then on, every time I was in a job, I just knew there was a certain look I was supposed to have in that job. Tone it down a little bit and keep all my, bright stuff, what they thought was wild, for home or whatever. And that just turned out not to be true. That it should have been acceptable. In some places, probably was acceptable. It was her own belief about what she thought I should look like. And at 21 years old, I didn't know that I should have or could have said, this is who I am. And so what I did last year, so my last day of working when I retired, I wore red shoes. So in April of 2017, I said, I am wearing red shoes on my last day, but I didn't get a chance to get my hair braided. So last week, July 6th, I celebrated my 40-year professional anniversary. I started working for AT&T on July 6, 1981. So on July 6th, I went and got all this.
Okay.
I did this last week. I said, I don't know if I'll keep it because it's so heavy. I should have gotten the light ones, but I did it on purpose. And I did an Instagram post about authenticity. And I told Black girls, do you. And then I told everybody, do you. And my main message, and I put it in my Instagram post, was employers, you need to accept the people and the hairdos that walk through your doors.
Right.
And obviously hair is one thing, but it's bigger than that. It's when people have a sense for what they think you should look like and they try to make you somebody else, not appreciating the value and diversity that we bring as who we are. And I didn't know to stress that at 21 years old, but I know now, and that's why I share that to other people. So I would tell my 21-year-old self to politely get another opinion and have someone help me tell these people that I was not going to take down my braids. That's what I would tell my 21-year-old self, that you are beautiful, you are phenomenally made, they are blessed to have you, and figure out a respectful way to agree to disagree. But that's hard to do when you're 21 years old. It was hard for me to do at 21 years old, starting this new job, and it was my boss's boss. That's why it's so important what employers do in the workplace.
I hope young people are taking notes during this conversation, because when you said you are beautiful, you are beautifully made, and they are blessed to have you, you need to write that down and put it someplace on a mirror, on a kitchen cabinet, someplace where you will see it on a regular basis.
Yes. I have 4 kids.
Remind yourself of that.
Yes, I have 4 kids, and I give them this list when they get out of college and they start working. And depending on their age, it'll say like 23 tips to my 23-year-old prince or 22 tips to my 22-year-old princess. And a lot of them are about working. And the first one about work is never let anybody fundamentally change who you are. Because that happened to me when I got promoted to officer in the company. I was told by this one lady all these things she wanted me to change. But it was 19 or 20 years later that I actually could address it. So when it happened to me then, I turned down the promotion. And I ended up getting another call from the head of the company, and he offered it to me again the right way, and I accepted it. But it was years later where I said, you don't get to do this again. You don't get to do this again.
Now, when you came to the Dallas Mavericks, you had a 100-day plan. I'd like to hear about that. And you actually changed the culture very quickly. I mean, this is very difficult to do. Large organizations like this are not like speedboats. They're like cruise ships, in order to change the direction. It's really hard to do that. And so in 100 days, you made a difference. And then in 3 years, we're now at a point where, let me get the statistics right. I think it's 47% are people of color, 50% are women, or is it the vice versa? I know
Yes,
that
you got it.
I got it right. Okay, good.
Mhm.
Good. And those numbers are important.
Mhm.
And a round of applause for you for doing that. What does it take to radically change an organization and a business that has been historically white and definitely historically male? And is it important to do things quickly? I mean, do you, if it had took longer than 100 days or longer than 3 years, is time an enemy when you're doing this work?
Yeah, I love the question here. I think you have to go quickly. You have to go quickly. And so first of all, the tone is set at the top. So I think having my boss, Mark Cuban, hire a black woman to be the CEO of the Dallas Mavericks was huge. It didn't even dawn on him that I was the first. He wasn't, and I tell people he wasn't trying to make history, he was trying to make a difference. And so he was trying to hire somebody to help in his situation with there are a lot of allegations, as you know, about what was going on there, and not just allegations. I mean, things had been going on for almost 20 years. And when that Sports Illustrated article came out that chronicled all that, he wanted to make a difference and change the culture in his workplace. Having focused a lot on the basketball side and not being involved on the business side, he switched his focus and said, "Okay, I need a change." And so when he called me, and some people don't believe it, but it's true, I did not know him. I just didn't know him. Okay, I was raising 4 kids, high powered job. I didn't know him. And so once I sat down with him, he was so genuine and so caring and so focused on wanting a change in the culture for his organization. And so I ended up, once I accepted it, and I really accepted it because some women talked to me who were there. So I said I did it for the sisterhood, but the brotherhood also benefited. But it was a vision. The first thing I laid out was a vision that said we would set the global standard for diversity and inclusion in the NBA by the end of that year. So by 2019, by January. So this was in end of February 2018. And so I just put a stake in the ground, and I focused on diversity and inclusion because I believe in the business case for it. I believe I know that from my years at AT&T, from working in the community, if you want to be successful, you need to have diverse voices at the table, making decisions and giving you insight. And so that's what we laid out. I think so. That's surprised some people. I said, and then I laid out a set of values: character, respect, authenticity, fairness, teamwork, and safety, both physical and emotional safety.
Can you say that one more time for those who are taking notes?
Yes, and it spells crafts.
Mhm.
Character, respect, authenticity, fairness, teamwork, and safety, both physical and emotional safety. So in my initial press conference, and I talked to our team right before I had the press conference, I said, I just met these people. I said, here's the vision, and is around DNA and setting the global standard. Here are the values that we will operate on, and they will be on the walls and operating in the halls. Everything we do will be based on a set of values. This is values-based employment now at the Dallas Mavericks. We have a 100-day plan that focuses on zero tolerance, so developing an agenda around that, a Mavs women's agenda, culture transformation, and operational effectiveness. And each one of those had different categories. So it was about 200 initiatives. And I literally wrote this on a plane the weekend before I started, right after I had met Mark. I read articles, I had talked to some of the people there, and I just said, what do I know? I got to rely on everything I know, everything I've learned in my life about creating a great place to work. And so I took all what I had read, what I had heard, and what I know, and laid out this 100-day plan. And fortunately, there were some fabulous and still are some wonderful people who work at the Dallas Mavericks. And part of what I did, I had a one-on-one with every single employee in my first 90 days, every single employee, to understand who was actually in there. And then I understood it was also clear who had to leave. And the tone is set at the top, so most of the leadership team had to leave.
And sometimes you have to do that.
And you have to do it quickly.
Mhm.
And that's one thing I stressed in the press conference is swift action, because the people here, and it wasn't about me at all. I mean, I had retired, had started a consulting company, and was on my way to be probably a college president at a HBCU somewhere, because I had fallen in love with them when I moved to North Carolina. So, but I just felt a calling to do this, and felt that I was uniquely qualified to rally these people together to get it done. And so I get a lot of credit for it, but honestly, I just led it and laid out a plan. It was a team effort. There are so many people in the Dallas Mavericks who said, yes, we want a great place to work, and we're going to do whatever it takes to create that and to set a standard. And they did. I'm proud of our team. I mean, I'm just so proud of our team. We did it. We're not perfect. I mean, we still have issues and we still have to address stuff and all that. But when it comes up, we don't tolerate it.
The NBA has been the locus for a lot of activism among players. And there's been a controversy over the last few years surrounding the role of players as activists and change makers in their communities and really throughout the country. Do you think that the Mavericks as an organization has taken the right steps to speak out on political, social, and cultural issues in our society? And what do you think about the role of the athlete as activists? Because there are some people we've all heard the phrase "shut up and dribble." We've heard the phrase, that maybe they should focus more on sports and not on activism. That is an important platform, though, because people are watching and they are role models. What do you think about that?
It's totally important. And I say in this job the same thing I said in my last job. We don't just work here, and we don't just play here. We live here too. We are a part of the community. So to ask people to shut up and not be a part of the community, not be a part of making change, is outrageous to me. And so we have a platform. We had something last June 9th called Courageous Conversation. It was a community courageous conversation. And I wanted to have that. Mark wanted to have it because we were having all these conversations internally. And we said, we're part of a broader community. We are natural unifiers. We bring people together for a living. We use our arena, our plaza to bring people together to talk about things, to have fun, to enjoy each other, to entertain, but we bring people together. So we've got to take our natural convener, unifier role and bring the community together to address some real issues. And we, at that time, we were in a double pandemic, a pandemic of COVID-19 and a pandemic of social injustice. And shame on us if we wouldn't use our platform to bring people together, to shine a light on some things that needed to be done. And as a result of that day, and our theme was listen, learn, unite. And as a result of that day, we put together a community action plan, and it's called Mavs Take Action: Advocacy, Communication, Training, Investment, Outreach, and Noise. 50 initiatives, over $5 million investment, 10,000 volunteer hours, cut across all systems, all issues we're trying to address with the community. So we saw it as the perfect opportunity to use our platform for that. And I did have some season ticket holders, some people who would call and say they didn't like it. They wanted to give up their season tickets. And so what I told my team, I said, I want to talk to anybody who wants to leave us. Mm-hmm. I don't want to have the attitude of just bye, we'll get other people. I want to talk to them.
What were those conversations like? Were you
able?
Oh,
they were great. My husband would always know I was having one because I was working from home. And so he'd see me in the front yard like for an hour, pacing back and forth in the front yard. He said, "Oh, she must be talking to somebody who's trying to leave." And I would tell them, you know what? That's fine. Give us your credit card number. I mean, we will reimburse you, but I actually want to talk about why you're trying to leave because I truly believe we have more things in common than we have differences. And so it would be a lot of, we don't like the players speaking out. And I said, but they're in the bubble. They're not at home where they could normally be involved in their community. So they're all together because we're trying to entertain all of you. So they have to be able to speak from there. And so then we would talk about the issues one by one. And I will tell you 9 out of 10 times they end up staying. And I would ask them to be a part of the change. I tell them about Mavs Take Action. And I say, I need you a part of this. So which piece do you want to get involved in with us? The advocacy piece. I mean, so I'd go through the whole agenda and there would be something in there that would resonate with somebody. I said, okay, I'm signing you up for that. I'm signing you up for that. And so give me your credit card number. I will give you your money back, but I still want you to engage with us. And they'd say, oh, no, 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 it's okay. And so the season was beautiful because I got a chance to meet a lot of these people at the games. They would come up to me and give me their name and say, oh, I said, oh, I remember talking to you. They said, yeah, you'd say you were pacing outside. And so I've developed actually some great relationships because of the dialogue. And that's all I'm in our building now. It says, listen, learn, unite. So it's been, and we have some people who have left. I mean, there'll be some people won't appreciate what we're trying to do. And that's okay too. That's okay too.
The NBA's global appeal is significant and continues to grow every year, and that is certainly evident in the Mavs. You have several players who hail from overseas. I think sometimes it seems like it's half your roster, actually.
And we have a lot. It's
Yeah,
great.
you do have a lot. Is there is the end? Should we see the NBA really as not just at this point an American phenomenon, but actually a global phenomenon? And what are you doing to prepare your organization, but really the league,
Yes.
to become an increasingly globalized sport? And is there a message there for young people who are thinking about building their own businesses? To always think about not just your front yard, but this vast universe.
That's one thing I love about the NBA, and Adam Silver is a great commissioner for us. And that was one of the things they talked to me about when I first got there. And I come from a global company. I mean, I worked for AT&T, operating in over 150 countries, and maybe even more now. And so I've had a global mindset for a long time. We had employees all across the world, and so then to come in the NBA and see that we had, and especially at the Mavs, all these international players, it makes you realize that we are part of something bigger. That is not just about America. We are part of something bigger. And so we want this to be a welcoming place, but we also want it to be where we can go to these other places, learn about these other countries, really enhance our cultural sensitivities, if you will. And so so we're looking at international partners. Normally we would have domestic, local companies or whatever sponsoring us, but now the NBA has come up with international partnership and corporate sponsorship opportunities that we can go after. We have our players who will go home in the off season. Our superstar player Luka Doncic is in Slovenia right now and has led his country for the first time to compete in the Olympics. And so we're all engaged in that. And so we have other players who have been playing as well. We have Josh Green, I think, in Australia and some other places. We have been engaged. I've been watching these games. I was watching these games online. I said, I cannot believe I am watching basketball in other countries and engaged in it and learning from it. So I think it just makes us richer. It makes us better. And we are absolutely a global industry and good for us for recognizing that and welcoming people.
Now, I want to remind people, remember to put your questions in Q&A because we're going to move to some audience questions in just a minute. And so we want to make sure that we can grab those questions. Go to Q&A and type your questions for Cynthia Marshall. She is laying down some wisdom here, and we'd like to hear your questions too. Now, we hear a lot about mentoring up, or mentoring down and networking up. But lateral mentoring is important also. Keeping people in the business, particularly in a world where there's so much tumult and technology can change everything. So who's part of your posse, your army, when you get in formation with your, other CEOs, other people who were in leadership positions? Who do you turn to for support, and who do you try to support in your lateral network?
Oh, I love it. I am just so blessed. I have a few different posses. I really do. And I know not everybody is that blessed. And sometimes it kind of spreads me thin, but it depends on what's going on and what I need. So I have my Sunday night posse. So my Sunday night posse is called Win with Black Women. And these are some women. It was about 20 of us on a call. I think it was about August 2020, and decided we wanted to kind of weigh in on some of the political things going on in the country. And that has turned now into a group of, I think, let's see, Joe Edie is in charge of it. I think almost 400 women. We get together almost every Sunday night. I wasn't there last Sunday night because I had to watch the NBA finals. But we get together and we just talk about things. We talk about public policy primarily, but then we engage in all kinds of issues. But I can rely on those women, and there are a few who I just reach out to and we talk offline. So that's my posse, because I know they understand what I go through every day. They understand my journey, and we can just have some real talk. And then there's the Executive Leadership Council, and then there's like the Texas Women's Foundation. I mean, I just have different posses that I can treat, and I have developed relationships. I learned a long time ago not to be superficial, that we can all lean on each other and we can help each other. And my posse is very, very diverse. I have men, women, LGBTQ, black, white, red, yellow. I have a very, very diverse posse. And that's actually been good for my kids to see, because they have the same thing. And then I have the CEO Action Network. So my CEO buddies. So I got it at all level. I have our employee resource groups. We have 6 at the Mavs. So I tap into them when things are going on. So I just have a variety of posses, just depending on what is going on in my life. I have Dallas Casa and a bunch of people who represent just different groups in the community, different organizations, different companies. But we have something in common, that we have a passion for permanence and stability for our children. So I lean on them when I'm wrestling through those issues, or I want to make a difference in that space. So I got a
How
lot
do
of
you
posses.
how do you make time for that? Because in a leadership role, you can imagine someone saying, "I don't have time for that. I'm too busy."
I,
But you just named a lot of people.
Yeah, you integrate it, because here's what I learned. Integration is key for me. I never went for the work-life balance. Now I do my rubber balls and crystal balls. Okay, I know what I can't drop. What can't drop? My crystal balls cannot drop. They shatter. They'll never come back. I know what those are. And then I know the rubber balls. I know what can bounce back. So sometimes, I might not have this posse front and center, but I'm on different boards and all that. But I integrate. So if I'm on a board, I get to know these people. I mean, so then they become my friends. They're part of my network. Now I do have like my best bestie from college. Okay, Yvonne. So I have my bestie. So I have my Bahamas. Go to the Bahamas and hang out. So I've got my 4 sisters where I do that. Okay, and I have to do that at least once a year. But I integrate it. I go all in. That's why I have to consider the number of boards I'm on, corporate and nonprofit, because I go all in, because that's part of my life. I'm doing life with people at that point.
So sometimes you do have to say no so you can say yes to the right things. And for those taking notes, the juggle is real. And so that image of the crystal ball and the rubber ball, I am stealing that from you, because that is there's some things that you can't let drop and some things that
You just can't. I used to tell my kids, one time I had to, AT&T asked me to go to Washington, D.C. to help them lobby some issues. And I said, and they wanted me there all week. And I was living in North Carolina at the time, and D.C. was closed. I said, I can be there all week except for Wednesday afternoon. Don't schedule any meetings for Wednesday afternoon, because that's my son's first high school swim meet.
Okay.
We had just moved to North Carolina. That's a crystal ball for me. Practice is not a crystal ball.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And maybe I'll miss a swim meet. I'm not going to miss his first high school swim meet.
Yeah.
I get there to give me the schedule, and the most important policymakers I had to meet with were all scheduled on Wednesday afternoon. I told them I can't do it. And they're like, "Oh no, you have to do it." I said, "I can't. It's his first high school swim meet." And I'll never forget the look at one guy. He says, "Really? I mean, we've got all these senators and representatives we need you to meet with, and you're talking about a swim meet?" I said, yes, his first high school one, not like just any other one. And so I went, when my boy looked up in the stands for his daddy, he saw his mama.
Yeah.
And he saw my husband too, but he saw his mama. And I contend that's why that boy won that individual medley race, because his mama was
Yeah.
in the stands. And then the very next morning at 6 o'clock, I took a plane back. But it was a crystal ball. It was his
Yeah.
first high school swim meet. Some things I
And
can't miss.
those are so important because they do look up in the stand for you. They
Yes.
take themselves out of the moment and they're, are you there? So
They just
those
know.
things are
They just know. And sometimes you just need to show up. You just have to show up. And then sometimes a lot of times you can't. And I never had any guilt or anything like that when I couldn't be there, because those babies got to eat. Okay. So it's like But I knew what was important. And I'm the same way at work. I know what's crystal at work, and I know what's rubber at work. And so I know what I have to handle. The people part of my job. Our workplace promise at the Dallas Mavs is every voice matters and everybody belongs. It's all about the people. That's important to me. I might miss something externally or whatever because I am sitting with an employee, or I'm on Zoom with somebody who's having a problem. That's what's important to me. The people are crystal.
I love that you also say that and you post it, because sometimes it needs to be articulated and you need to see it to remember it.
Yes.
You can't just say it once. We have questions from the audience. People are actually voting on the questions that they like the best. So the number one question right now was submitted by Lawrence Duvernay, and he wants to know, as a young African-American girl, did you see yourself in the position that you are in today? Could you allow yourself to even imagine this?
Actually, no. I imagine myself that I would be high up in a corporation. When I changed my major from engineering to business, I had this vision that I'd go work for a big company and that I'd start climbing. And so I wanted to be the boss and impact people and change lives and all that stuff. So I had that vision, and I knew I was a leader. I never had a vision that I would be the CEO of an NBA team. But it just goes back to, I think, having a good name, being qualified, having worked very hard to where some people put my name out there. And it's that whole notion of people talking about you when you're not even in the room. And so that's exactly, and that's what happened. And so I never in my wildest dreams imagined that I would be in this fabulous job with the ability to impact so many things, working with a great group of people and impacting, frankly, the trajectory of women in sports and in other industries. So I never thought about it, but I knew I'd be big.
It's important to, dream big, imagine it. You have to see it. You have to actually see it. Jose Ariano wants to know, how do we overcome imposter syndrome, and how important is the issue of mental health?
Yes. I talk a lot about PMS when I do my different speeches and all that. And I ask people, do you have PMS? And I say, I'm talking to the men too. And it's physical, mental, and spiritual health. Because I have learned, and I'm a colon cancer survivor. So I ended up with colon cancer, stage 3, one lymph node before stage 4. So it was bad. And it could have been avoided. I didn't take some action. I didn't have a colonoscopy when I was supposed to have it. I mean, I just irresponsible because I didn't have that balance. And so now I'm just emphatic about talking to people about the importance of your physical health, your mental health. I mean, we have counselors, we have people, our folks can call people at the MAV, they can call the counselor. We don't hear anything about it. And so we stress that a lot, the emotional piece, the spiritual piece. I try to do something every day to strengthen all of those, because I almost died from not having that balance. So I think it's very important, and I think especially it's important for employers to make it just something they talk about, not being a stigma. Mental health is real. I think getting counseling is good. There's so many things, especially growing up the way I did, that there's stigmas associated with it. And now you realize, you know what, we all need to get support. We all need extra help, all of that. It's just part of how we do life. The imposter syndrome is real. And I think this is where you have to first be aware that you have it, and not think that you're inadequate or whatever. When you start having those doubts, should you be in the room? I used to always go back to the fact that if I'm in a job, somebody asked me to be in that job. They asked me for a reason. These people weren't crazy. They invited me to do something because they felt that I needed to be in the room. Now, how you treat me when I'm in the room was another story. Maybe I have to address that. And that's the difference between diversity and inclusion. You can have me at the table, and I can be your black woman, but if you don't really teach me the rules, embrace me, include me, then we have another problem. So, but you invited me to the table. I'm supposed to be there. And so then what I had to develop, and I literally had to develop this, is just a checklist going through my head of why I'm supposed to be in that room. So depending on what job it is, I tell myself, okay, I have the background to lead people. I have this expertise. I have the public policy. I have this. Okay, that's what they need to hear it. And so just say something because that's why they want you here. They want that. That's why you're on this board. They need to hear that. So I'd have to force myself. And then it got to the point where it was just natural. It was just natural. But I think you have to be aware that it's happening and have your checklist of why you are there, why they ask you to be there, and tell yourself that checklist as often as you can.
So we have a couple more questions, and then we're going to hear from Frida Caper-Klein. So we're going to try to go through these a little bit quickly.
I love Frida. I love
Yes,
Frida.
don't we all love Frida?
Oh my
We all
goodness,
need
I
more
love
Frida. I need Frida in a bottle so I can like spray her around in my life like perfume.
Let's do that. I think we need a retreat. I think we need a retreat on the vineyard.
Oh, okay. Count me in or cut it out. That's what my father used to say.
Oh, I love that.
Count me in or
I'll
cut
go
it
quick.
out.
I'll go quick. We'll do a lightning round.
Okay, so Isaiah White wants to know, how does it feel to be in the CEO position? He says, congrats. So, how does it feel when you sign, you see your name there and you see those 3 letters behind it?
It feels great that I'm in a position to impact people. And that's the only thing I ever wanted. I mean, obviously I get paid, right? But that's the only thing I ever wanted was to impact people. So I don't see it as a power thing. It's actually, it's not pressure. I don't feel pressure. I just feel like I have to deliver for people. Like right now, I have 14 direct reports, and I have a list right now that I made a few weeks ago of everything I think I need to deliver for them right now. Not the other way around, but what I need to deliver as their boss and as a leader. And so that's what I've been checking that off. So it feels great. It feels great. It feels like a lot of work.
Okay, Lakeisha Geens wants to know, what is your process to overcome negative situations or negative people?
I talked about, I have a prayer closet that I go in every morning, and I have
an actual closet, like an actual space.
It's an actual closet. It's like outside my bedroom that my husband was trying to put some clothes and stuff in. I'm like, no. And then I start putting stuff in there. I'm like, no, we got to clean this out because that is my prayer closet.
Okay.
That is where I go to just get my mind right. And I try to go in there every morning, get my mind right. Anything that's negative, anything that is just not making me feel like I ought to feel, I pray my way through that. I learned a long time ago from my mother that some things you have to leave on the altar. And I leave negativity on the altar and I don't go back and pick it up. I cannot have, and my friends laugh at me because they'll tell me something and I'm like, I cannot have that impact my spirit. I've got too much to get done.
So you got to give that the Heisman. You just can't have that in my life.
Like goodbye. I leave it in that prayer closet.
Okay. So Taya Dinkins Goldsmith wants to know, what was the biggest obstacle in your life and how did you overcome it?
Oh my goodness. I would say the biggest obstacle in my life is, I've had just physical obstacles, trying to have a family and all that. All my kids are adopted. It's beautiful. So just realizing that some things I just can't control, that has been an obstacle that I just have to give it to wherever you give it to. I give mine to the Lord, that there's some things I absolutely can't control and that bad things do happen to good people. And because I've had a lot of adversity in my life, but to accept that, not dwell on it, to know that it happens. And sometimes it's not what happens, it's how you respond to what happens. And so to learn how to respond gracefully and keep moving.
So that was the biggest obstacle. Actually, that was, Caleb asked about obstacle. Taya also wants to know about the biggest risk and how you've overcome that.
Oh, I think the biggest risk, one of the biggest risks actually is when I accepted a job at AT&T to move out of California, where I grew up, where I spent the first 25 years of my career, and they asked me to go and lead our operation in North Carolina. And new people, new opportunity. We had just had a merger, and so I didn't really know anybody. And it was a big risk because it was a huge job. So a lot of people were watching. A lot of people were depending on me to be successful, especially people, other women, other people, other Black people. And so it was risky, new boss and all that. But I did it. I did it because it was a great opportunity. It was the right thing to do. And I also wanted to send a message that yes, Black women, Black people can do these jobs too.
Okay, so last question before we hear from Frida, and this is has the most votes. What is your favorite breed of dog?
Okay, and I put it in the chat that this summer I am working on overcoming my phobia of dogs because I saw a really bad accident with the dog years ago. And we
Oh,
grew up with dogs. We grew up with
mhm.
German Shepherds. And so I saw a really bad accident that made me afraid of dogs. But my
Mhm.
kids love dogs. They love dogs. And my daughter has this little dog, Louie. And so Louie is helping me right now. I think this weekend I'm gonna try to go and touch him. So everybody, no, everybody just pray for me. This is a serious issue in my house right now. And my whole
What
work
kind of
team
dog is Louis?
yeah, Louis, my whole work team is engaged in it. They are trying to help me overcome my phobia this summer. That
And
is
what
what
kind of dog is Louis?
Louis is some kind of little hound dog, short hair hound dog or something like that. He's
All
so
right.
cute. He's
So
running my backyard.
no, we'll get you the answer to that. When she embraces dogs, then you'll figure out what the favorite breed is.
But it
Sid
used to be
Marshall.
German Shepherd when I was growing up.
Okay. Sid Marshall, it has been a pleasure to talk to you. You have laid down so much wisdom for all of us. I think yours is a story that needs to be told. As I listen to you, I hear a book, I see a movie, I see a miniseries. I want you to keep doing what you're doing and putting such a positive spirit out into the world. You stand as an inspiration to so many of us. Thank you so much for spending an hour with us. And to close us out, we're going to hear from Frida K. Brookline. And Frida, I know, has lots to say. You can tell us what your favorite breed of dog is, Frida, and I think we know.
Thank you, sister. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, oh, thank you. Those who know me know I am rarely speechless, and I am almost at that point now. My heart is really full. My head is exploding with all of this wisdom. Michelle ended on the note of book, and let's also keep in mind that Michelle has a book coming out fairly soon from the Wisdom of the Race Card Project. I want to especially thank Cint. Just your story, your very being is such an inspiration to so many of us. And these conversations always look easy, but that's because Michele Norris-Johnson is unbelievably skilled at doing these conversations, at keeping it moving, at focusing on the things that people really want to hear. I want to thank Roberto Ortiz, the CEO of Welcome, for building this beautiful platform and for putting his own story out there to us and for having spoken to the Smash Scholars probably 10 years ago. Speaking of Smash Scholars, and to Marcos for kicking us off. Just a couple of things I did. I took a bunch of notes. I want us all to remember we all have a story. We all can be strong in our broken places. Bring that big old wingback chair. The glass is always half full. And here's something that Smash lives by. We don't believe in having only lonelies. We put our scholars and our alumni in pods. They learn together because we're trying to change the face of tech. And since every business is a tech business now, we're trying to change the face of business. Reach back and bring others along. Look for a place where you can be authentic. Remember what's a crystal ball and what's a rubber ball. Remember that every voice matters and everybody matters. Keep track of your physical and your mental and your spiritual health. And what we believe that pulls all of these things together at Smash, we remove barriers that never should have been there in the first place. So while we've heard these amazing stories of Cynthia going over and around and through every imaginable barrier, we want to get those completely out of the way. And so, my parting thought for all of our scholars out there and our alumni, and we're so proud of you, when you hit that tough moment, ask yourself, what would Cint do? Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting SMASH. For those who want to stay connected as speakers, as mentors to our SMASH scholars, to our SMASH alumni, please, please, please stay in touch. Thank you.
Hello, I fellow Bay Area, East Bay Area native, former resident of 94803, and as a newly appointed CEO. It is with great humility and honor that I thank you, Miss Cynthia Marshall, for sharing your incredible journey and gems with us, and Michele Norris for expertly guiding us through this experience. Just thank you both. Thank you both for simply being the stellar human beings you are. So many words of wisdom that I have definitely been taking notes here and will absolutely be putting to use. Before we absolutely bring this spirited conversation to a final close, I just want to say first and foremost, yes, thank you all today for joining us, joining the Smash community, and of course to welcome. Thank you very much for hosting us. And if you've got soul and perhaps even enjoyed watching the Pixar Soul movie or One Night in Miami, please be sure to join us next Wednesday, July 21st, same time, same place. Welcome here, that is, for another spirited conversation with Howard University alum and American film director, screenwriter, and playwright Kemp Powers. Thank you all. Thank you all so much for your time today. And may we all remain undaunted by this ever so good but hard fight. Have a great day and great rest of your week.
We got no limit. We don't